The aim of this video essay is to answer the question, how might the English Baccalaureate have a negative effect upon music education, the creative industries, and the UK economy? I've chosen this topic because I've previously worked as a freelance music teacher and would be interested in continuing to work in music education in the future, but only if it was still fulfilling and financially viable to do so. In 2010, the Conservative government introduced an education scheme called the English Baccalaureate, or EBAC, in which all secondary schools in the UK were obliged to participate. The certificate would be awarded to students who achieved GCSE qualifications in English, maths, science, a language, and geography or history. The Conservatives aspire to see 90% of all UK students participating in the scheme by 2025, and Ofsted have been judging the success of schools based on the number of pupils qualifying for it. Although the original intent of the EBAC was to encourage students to study a variety of different subjects which would benefit their futures, the scheme does not include inherently creative subjects such as music and art. As a result, more and more students are being discouraged from taking creative subjects at GCSE and beyond, and shepherded towards the EBAC subjects instead. In the case of music, the latest data from Ofqual found that only 36,000 students sat a music GCSE exam in 2018, when as recently as 2015 that figure was 43,000. This downwards trend in young people opting to study music at school beyond Key Stage 3 is a problem for a number of important reasons. At the most basic level, evidence of fewer music students over the age of 14 means that more young people are missing out on the developmental benefits that come from learning music. Countless studies have been undertaken which prove that music can inform vital academic and social abilities. In 2011, just 1 year after Michael Gove introduced the EBAC, he published the National Plan for Music Education in order to recognise these benefits and state how the government intended to strategically fund music education in the UK. The document included a study which listed reading ability, vocabulary, language development, mathematical skill, IQ, creativity, self-reliance, confidence, self-esteem, sense of achievement, ability to relate to others, discipline, teamwork, cooperation, confidence, responsibility, and social skills as key things music has been proven to positively affect in young people. A journal article called Making the Case for Teaching Music by David Schildkret adds a few more to the list, such as problem solving, critical thinking, and perhaps most importantly, just the joy of making music and sharing that human experience with others. Unnecessarily losing out on that opportunity could be the biggest tragedy of them all. As Schildkret writes, does anyone become a musician because it develops problem-solving skills? No. Musicians devote countless hours to their art because there is deep satisfaction in the act of singing and playing. Musicians enjoy the rehearsal process, the endless exploration of possibilities, not only because it breaks music down, but also for that moment when everything comes together in an exquisite phrase. Performers play not for glory or adulation, but out of an overwhelming desire to share the beauty they have discovered within the music. There is the hope that the audience will glimpse some of the ineffable joy the musician feels in music's concord. So not only might students miss out on opportunities to develop their intelligence and social skills through music, but also simply the act of making music might soon become endangered as fewer and fewer children choose to commit to it as a direct result of the EBAC. It's one thing to be concerned about the intelligence, social skills, and mental health of the young people missing out on music education, but there are further implications that could become apparent in the future on a wider scale. If the trend continues, there's a danger that the post-EBAC generations could produce a bottleneck in the number of working musicians in the UK. The creative industries in general are growing about twice as fast as the UK average, with music making significant contributions to advertising, film, video games, and television alongside the contribution of the music industry itself. If fewer of today's young people grow up to become professional musicians, the future music sector might struggle to adequately supply the demands of the large and fast-growing audiovisual industries, which would spell disaster for those industries and the UK economy as a whole. The £101.5 billion which the creative industries contributed to the UK economy in 2017 could become a lot less in years to come as a secondary effect to the English Baccalaureate. Additionally, money aside, it'd be a shame if less creative output was to be created in the UK for a country with such global recognition in the music, film, television and video games industries. So if members of Parliament have shown that they are aware of the importance of music, what is the government doing to try and encourage more young people to get involved in it? Their solution, outlined in the 2011 National Plan for Music Education, explained a pledge to give funding to music hubs across the country. The role of music hubs is to be the centre of musical activity in a given area, offering extracurricular ways for young people to access music education rather than as part of their main curriculum. In 2018, £75 million of total funding from the Department of Education was given to the 123 music hubs in the UK. The first immediate problem with this solution is that it makes music seem more like a hobby than a serious career option, pushing the subject out of the compulsory classroom environment and into the free time domain. I had the pleasure of interviewing Chris Walters, an education official at the Musicians' Union, who raised his concern that the way in which the Arts Council monitors the success of music hubs is also problematic.
They have to do these big data returns to the Arts Council, but we still think that is a very flawed process because the Arts Council collects data on sort of participation statistics, so how many kids on free school meals, for example, how many boys, how many girls, how many kids from each school under the hub's umbrella area is participating, that kind of thing. But they don't really, they don't at all collect any data on the quality of the outcomes.
Yeah.
And they don't seem to care at all about how the hubs go about what they do and even really what they do, as long as very, very broad goals are being met.
For the full success of music hubs, they would need both a high quantity of participation and a high quality of teaching, out of which only the quantitative data is currently measured. Another way young people can access music education outside of school is through peripatetic music teachers. These teachers usually work on a freelance basis, specialising in instruments they can play to a high standard. This is a practical way that music practitioners can earn money, but few rely on it as their sole source of income. Money is a factor which affects both students and peripatetic teachers alike, and unfortunately the UK is seeing a significant rise in levels of poverty within families. The Institute for Fiscal Studies predicts that the share of children in relative low income will increase sharply between 2015 to 16 and 2021 to 22, assuming no change in government policy. According to a report by the Musicians' Union in 2018, only 19% of families with a yearly income under £28,000 have at least one child learning an instrument, compared to 40% of families with a yearly income above £48,000. So although music education is available and even government funded, the reality is that a large proportion of families are priced out of it, and even more will be priced out of it in the future if the IFS's forecast is correct. Furthermore, poverty affects current musicians' ability to provide peripatetic teaching or get involved in music hubs as a career option, since self-employment and zero-hour contracts don't entitle freelancers to sick pay or pension schemes. Such downsides make full-time freelance music teaching an unattractive option, and redundancies of music teachers in schools will become increasingly more common if more young people continue to not study music at GCSE due to the EBAC. Even studying to become a secondary school music teacher is an unattractive prospect financially, since the Department for Education's bursary given to music teachers in training is, for example, only about 1/3 of the bursary given to trainee physics teachers. As such, there seems to be a lack of support for music teachers in the current government. Not only could poverty and the EBAC result in few musicians overall, but it could also exacerbate a diversity issue in which the majority of popular music will be made by people who grew up in wealthy families. According to Chris, this is already visible in the industry.
Are our musicians in this country all going to be people that were privately educated? So are we going to lose the sort of artistic voice, if you like, of people that have come through state education? If you look at bands that are successful now, they're much more likely to be privately educated than they would have been, say, 20 years ago, because access to music is so much better in the private sector than it is in the state sector. Not saying that bands always come out of formal music education, but if you've had a taste of music at school, then you're more likely to have a go at it, doing it yourself in your own way.
A widening of the gap between the classes in a music context could manifest itself as a progressively more classist music scene in the future. It is a commitment of the Arts Council to ensure that within the arts there is fair and equal representation of people from all backgrounds, so they in particular would have concerns with that outcome and might step in to find ways to counteract it. Various individuals and organisations in the music industry have sought for solutions to the complex issue that the EBAC has created. The London Symphony Orchestra, for example, have planned an initiative to reach out to low-income families in order to ensure children from all socio-economic backgrounds have the chance to be taught music. Although only a local solution to the problem and not a national one, schemes such as this are a vital form of activism put in place to fight for opportunities for young people while the EBAC continues to be promoted by the government. Meanwhile, the Musicians' Union, in collaboration with many music education advocates, have been campaigning directly to the government to make their concerns known. One such campaign is Back for the Future, which to date has 217 leading organisations in support of the school subjects that the EBAC currently excludes. Chris discussed an ideal end goal for all the campaigning in relation to the EBAC.
It's not just about music, it's a sort of policy. It has to be a policy more broadly about what is a good curriculum overall.
Yeah.
Because you have to, I think you have to go with this idea that a broad and balanced curriculum is the best way to do things. And it can't just be, the RE lobbying for RE and the music education lobbying for music. We have to take a step back and look at a better way of doing things, which is broader across all of the subjects. I think we've called for that fairly consistently in the last few reports that we've put out. As much as we're totally passionate about music, other subjects matter too, and it's about balance and broadness across everything.
As the policymakers hold the power in this situation, it seems that the only national solution would be for the government to alter or revoke the English Baccalaureate. The damage that the scheme has caused in the last 9 years cannot be undone. However, hope for the future of music education, the creative industries, the economy, and the music industry could be found if there was a change in government policy. Chris believes, however, that a change in policy would only come about if there was a change in government.
Our impression is that the EBAC policy is not going to change until we have a change of government, because there is evidence until the cows come home of how damaging it's been, and no one cares. So, I would be very surprised if they decided to change their mind now, because they've been presented with clear evidence that it's decimated secondary school music departments, for example. GCSE music numbers have plummeted, and they are in denial. And they think that arts in schools is as strong as ever. I think secretly they know the truth, but it's too embarrassing to do a U-turn at this point.
Although quite a complex issue, a simple and major effect of having fewer well-educated professional musicians in the future would be less new music for future music consumers to enjoy. Since music is such an integral part of the human experience, that would truly be a catastrophe. Unless, of course, we really want to listen to music composed by robots.